The angels who write your good deeds and your bad deeds in the books. Huh? How about those two? While they're writing the good deed, you do a good deed. Where do they put it? Which book do they put it in? The good book. The book of the right hand. But that does not guarantee that deed will be accepted. Just because it was written in that book. The angels only wrote it because you did a good deed by definition. The intention is not known in that book. Intention is only with Allah Azza wa Jalla. So on the day of judgment, when the good deed is taken in as a sin, that you were doing what's called riya, showing off, or the wrong reason, or no reason at all. I know a lot of people who just do good because they think, I'm just a good person. Don't need God to be good. There's a lot of people like that. I can just be good. No problem, good for you. When you meet God, don't say I did it for you then. And don't expect rewards, because you did it for you. Simple. So the second is the angels. When you meet the books, you say, this was put in the wrong place. Maybe the angels did not realize, I did it sincerely for you, O Allah. Again, no, cannot blame the angels. It is hidden from the malaika. And the third that it is hidden from, sincerity. Why does Allah hide it? He hides it to protect it, because it's so important to Him. Or He loves it so much, I should say. He hides it from the third. And who is the third? You and I. And you and I are not aware, did I do this purely for Allah's sake or not? And that's a scary thought. Because you don't know when you pray, is it for His sake or not? When the brother recited the verses of Quran, is it for his sake or not? While I'm speaking to you right now, is it for His sake or am I doing it for some other reason? This awareness is difficult. It is the most difficult struggle of a believer. And throughout history, the ulama, the salaf al-salih, they all have said, the sahaba, they all struggled with the niyyah. So much so that there is a famous hadith that is narrated from almost all of the major Islamic books. I want to say hadith books, but even Islamic books, like Arba'in an-Nawawiyah, which collected only 42 hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and you have the main authentic ones, Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari, and many other books. The very first page, open those books, the very first hadith, the very first quote is this one. Actions are judged by intentions. So each man will have what he intended. Thus he whose migration, hijrah, from Mecca to Medina, was to Allah and His Messenger, then his migration is to Allah and His Messenger. But whoever migrated, and it was for some worldly gain or a thing or something, or maybe for a woman he might marry, then his migration was for that which he migrated. A beautiful hadith which first explains that everything you do, it will be judged. Number one, there is nothing you and I will do that it will escape. It will be judged. Except whatever Allah Azza wa Jalla forgives and does not judge. And He can do all things. And we ask Allah to excuse us and never judge us for anything. Ameen. But when He does judge, when you do something silly, this is a great way to grow maturity, okay? When you do silly things in the hallway, sisters, whatever, brothers, the whole master nonsense. When you do something silly in the hallways, in the bathroom, some of the jokes that brothers play, or in the dorm or at home or in your closet or in your bedroom, whatever you're doing, you do something silly in the car, on the train, and you just think it's funny, or you make a funny sound, or you make a funny face. That's an action. That's something that will be judged. Just imagine something you didn't even care to do. You didn't even care for it, but you will have to face it. And it will be brought in front of you and say, you did this. Why? And you will be questioned. This creates maturity in a believer. Some people say religious people are too serious. I agree, sometimes they are. You know, I saw a picture of this big bearded turbanator dude, and he's in a what do you call those things? Go-kart, bumper cars, thank you. Bumper car. He's in one of those big guy, legs are up in the air, and he's just trying to fit in there. And he's driving this bumper car, and he's smiling, and it says, putting the fun back into fundamentalism. Sometimes religious people can be pretty serious. But it's not really that they're serious. They just look it. Do you know who the scariest people are on earth? Sorry? Oh, you're on the phone. Sorry. No, it's okay. I didn't mean to embarrass you. I'm sorry. So, do you know who the scariest people are in the world? Who are they? Don't say Muslims. The scariest people in the world are people who are scared themselves. Okay? When a person is afraid and you see him in this position of fear, then he looks a bit scary. And there's different kinds of fear. It's another topic, another time. Very long topic. If you arrange it, I'll give you a lecture on it. It's amazing psychology about ideological warfare. It's about racism. It's about all kinds of destruction in the world, and it stems from fear. And it's the wrong kind of fear. There's the right kind of fear, the fear of God Almighty, the fear of yourself, your own deeds, your actions, your accountability, and then the fear of losing worldly gain, the fear of gaining worldly gain, the fear of a person of another race, superiority, inferiority, these kind of things. So, religious people look scary sometimes, and that's because they're afraid. And they're walking around thinking, what did I do? He's probably thinking of a sin he committed, and he's walking down really stressed, and everyone else is thinking he's going to blow something up. Because he looks a bit nervous. And that's why they look so serious, because they're in contemplation, my brothers and sisters. And that's a beautiful thing to do. I just advise my serious brothers and sisters that when you're out in public, remember others are looking at you. And part of sincerity is to hide that. So when people look at you, smile. Look nice. That also applies to miserable, depressed gits. Someone who's miserable, oh, the world, oh, my country, oh, my grades, oh, my money, he's walking around like this. No one wants to talk to you. No one wants to sit with you. I got enough of my own problems. No one. And they get upset even more because they expect you to care. They expect depression to be a source of magnet to attract sympathy. And they come to you, oh yeah, my life. And you're like, oh brother, it'll be okay. I've got to go. You don't want to stick around. You don't want to stick around. So anyways, when it comes to the importance of piety and righteousness, that's what we're going to talk about. But first and foremost, the definition of sincerity is that it is hidden, and you must strive for it, and you must seek it out. And my non-Muslim friends, Islam has nothing to do with sincerity. It's nothing to do with religion. It's natural. It is part of the fitrah, my organization. No, it's not part of my organization, but it's part of the name of fitrah. Al-fitrah, the natural disposition of good that you were created upon. Within that, we have what's called intention. Do you know the difference between animals and human are pretty much just two things? And any other example you can give, like we walk on two legs, they walk on four legs, that's not what I mean. But any other example you give stems from these two things. The first is aql, intelligence. And it's not really intelligence, because some animals are far smarter than men. I mean, there's some animals that are much smarter than human beings. It's shocking. Or sometimes you'll see a person so stupid, you're like, man, you know what? You're worse than a donkey. It happens. It happens. It does happen. Some people are really thick, and I love them for it. They're simple people. We call them simpletons. They're beautiful. You love them for it. But you know what? The simplicity is nice, but some animals like whales are very intelligent, dolphins, other animals, etc. The real difference between an animal and a human being is this. That was a scientific answer, which I very easily kind of just excused, right? The scientific answer is the difference between humans and animals as we can think we're intellectual. Well, there's animals far smarter than humans. So what's the difference between animals and humans? Two things. Animals are not cruel. Humans are cruel. Humans have the ability to be cruel. Animals don't. Someone will say, what about a lion who kills a poor gazelle? He's eating for the day. And in some instances, that lasts weeks and months. He won't keep killing them. He does it out of necessity, survival. One sacrifices his life for the other. Else they both die. Whereas humans keep killing and killing and killing. And it's never enough. The second difference between animals and humans, the more important one for today's lesson, is that human beings have the ability to make an intention. Some might say it's free will, call it what you like, but it's intention. Animals don't intend to do things. They don't sit there and plot. They just do it. It's instinctive. With humans, you have the ability to make an intention. I'm doing this anyway. I've got to eat anyway. But before I take this bite, I'm going to make an intention. Bismillah. And you say in the name of God, Ali. Many people don't even know what that means. We're going to talk about that. This hadith starts off with saying that the first part is that actions are judged. That's clear. You won't get away with any actions except that it will be questioned. The second part is that they are judged by what? Which part of the action? I saved a country. I fed a dog. Which is heavier? The country is obviously heavier. But which is heavier in the sight of Allah? Who was more sincere? You must understand that two good deeds are not the same. And the first example in humanity are the sons of Adam, Abil and Qabil, Cain and Abel. And they were told their jealousies over their issues about who they were going to marry. They were told, sacrifice for your Lord. And the more sincere sacrifice will be accepted by Allah. One did a little bit, the other one did a lot. So the one who did more sincerely and Allah gave more and struggled and hurt to give, felt the pinch, his was accepted. And for that, the jealousy of the other, who was already a bit corrupt in his ways because he couldn't be so sincere, he killed him for it. And the jealousy is there. So many people might wonder, how come the good are always suffering the most? Because the bad will be jealous of you because you're good. Don't lose it. Don't lose that goodness. You believe. You are a believer. You have the most expensive, precious thing in existence, which is guidance and understanding. And it only increases year by year as you mature in that faith. As you study and get nearer to Allah, to your Lord, the more you study of what He's created, the more intelligent you become, the more you are elevated above others. And others will be jealous about. May Allah protect you all from the hasad and evil eyes of others. Ameen. And our families. So the Prophet ﷺ said about this man, okay, this hadith specifically gives an example right away. This actually did happen. They migrated from Mecca to Medina. This was such a majorly, almost disaster. It was painful. It was excruciating suffering. This journey from Mecca to Medina was very difficult. And on this journey, there were people who found an opportunity to hop on the caravan and get a free ride to Medina. And there was a guy who went for the sake of getting married to someone in that city, which normally he wouldn't have been able to make that journey. He couldn't afford to do so. So he saw Muslims leaving Mecca. This was an opportunity, and he went. And the Prophet ﷺ used that man as an example, that whatever you do, you will have what you intended behind it. So it is a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to give us examples. And the importance of this hadith, my brothers and sisters, how many of you have heard this hadith at least once in your life? Every action is judged. Let's do it reverse. How many of you have never heard of that? Every action is judged by its intention. 1, 2, any more? Anyone else? 3? Come on, put your hands up. Don't be shy. Who else have not heard of it? 4, 5, okay, about 4 or 5 people. Alhamdulillah. Thanks to the organizers and myself right now, and you for being here. Those few people would have heard it today for the first time, and all of us gained the sadaqah jariyah that they will one day pass it on. And this will continue. Say Alhamdulillah. Easy, good deeds. But you know what? The Sahaba, those who knew and understood the message of Allah through the Prophet, the holiest of moments and times, the times of suffering and difficulty, they understood best. And when the hadith was said to them, and later someone else asked, and it was said,